Okay, are you looking to buy or maybe sell your home and maybe not sure to start, or are you wondering about the economy? You worried about that? To help with some answers to those questions and give us some tips, and we will be able to take your phone calls, so call us in. I'm joined by Ed Griffinhagen, who is the Director of Marketing for Kennon & Parker, Duncan & Key, Coldwell Banker. Thanks so much for being with us. I bet you are the man these days. Everybody is either trying to buy something on the low or trying to sell something and get more for it, huh?
It's an opportunistic market. It is. But it's a good market. You know, almost 3,000 houses sold in 2010. So.
In this area? Wow.
Columbus, Phoenix City, Fort Mitchell, Harris County area.
So, but the perception, I guess, is because of media. You know, things are a lot worse than that, huh?
That's right. That's right. But really and truly, about 3,000 sold, and there's about 2,600 on the market right now.
Right now, okay. Let's jump right into it. If I am a seller and I want to sell my house, let's take a look at some of the tips. It's make sure your home is in peak condition before putting it on the market. Eliminate reasons for the buyers to make negative assumptions about your home. So make sure your home is in peak condition. What does that mean?
You really don't want that sign in the front yard until you are ready for the one that's going to buy it to walk in.
Okay.
And you don't want any negativities to be there, so you really just want it to be ready right the day the sign goes in.
So we're talking about obvious things, a big hole in the carpet as you're walking in the front door, and the hole that the teenager left in the wall in the hallway.
Absolutely, and even little things. I mean, you don't want, you know, if a doorknob or something is loose, tighten it up. It's not a big deal, because a buyer is going to, if they see that doorknob is loose or something like that, they're going to assume that there are other things out there that are wrong with the house. Okay,
and that's eliminating reasons for buyers to make a negative assumption. Make sure it appeals to the masses, so it can't be so specifically me, huh?
Right. I mean, you live in a house one way and you sell a house another way. And that's not to say that navy blue walls, that I'm a navy blue wall hater. That just means that neutral tones tend to appeal to the masses in a much greater way.
Now, what do you mean by this? Price your home right, position it correctly in the marketplace.
A house is really no different than anything else that is out there in the marketplace. Supply, excuse me, supply and demand are what drive that. So if we get a house that is out of whack price-wise, the very people that need to see it are never even going to know it's on the market. So you have to really look at the competition and say, where does my house fit? If you were, I liken it to being in line at the grocery store. And we got to find a way to cut into the front of the line. And so we got to be in the right position.
Now, here's something that I had a realtor tell me: Dee, don't fall in love with your property. I've bought and sold some property. And here you say, be unemotional. It's a business transaction, and you can't fall in love with stuff sometimes. Huh?
No, and it's very hard, and that really falls. That's on the buyer side and on the seller side as a tip. But I hear a lot of times, well, they don't understand. I raised my babies in this house.
Yes.
and I understand that, but from the buyer's perspective, and when you're a seller, you got to put your feet in the shoes of the buyer. They're not concerned that you raised your babies in there.
Right.
It really does have to just be a business deal.
Okay, those are sellers. What about I'm looking for property, I am now the buyer? Find a professional realtor. Why? Tell me.
Because you really need, first of all, we are all the realtors in Columbus, and there are a lot of wonderful real estate companies and professional realtors in Columbus. And we're in the inventory every day. We know the houses. We've been in them. We've gone to agents' open houses.
So you're saying you can save time?
You can save time and you can save money, because you need somebody to represent you in that transaction as a buyer. And that's what realtors do every day.
Now, what do you mean by this in a buyer tip? Don't ask for too many opinions.
You know, I hesitated in giving you that one, but I'll give you a great example. When my wife and I bought our first house, my parents, her parents, her grandparents, my brother, her two brothers.
Mama Nim, cousin Nim.
They had to, you know, they had to bless that house. Well, that's probably not the, you know, I'm not saying don't ask for your parents' opinion, you know, if you're a first-time
But the more you ask,
buyer.
the more input, the more trouble. Except that no house is perfect, huh?
And that's a big deal, too. You know, if you hold that house, if the standard is perfection, there is nothing that will ever meet that.
Right.
because human beings made it. You know, robots didn't make that, didn't build that house. Human beings built it. Even if it's brand new, it's not going to be perfect.
Okay. And there's generally some buyer's remorse. Always that little, tiny little thing, what if I hadn't of? But generally it's going to be okay, huh?
Absolutely. And it's just, it is an inevitability. I give my buyers a little medicine jar that has M&Ms in it, and I say, when you feel bad about this transaction, eat one of these M&Ms.
And I see the same last tip for the buyer too. Commit to be unemotional. It is a business transaction. Treat it as such. And sometimes I guess you have to take a stand on either side, huh?
You do. I mean, you really do. I mean, you know, when a buyer makes an offer and a seller says that's insulting, it's not insulting. It's a business transaction, and you can't get mad. Neither one of them need to get mad at each other, because it is a business transaction. And when a seller counters an offer back to a buyer, the same thing is true. You know, the buyer wants the best house for their money, and the seller wants to get the most for their house.
And you got to come to something in the middle. What do you think about the market locally? Is it going to pick up? What can we expect?
I mean, I think it has picked up. I think perception is such a big deal. Like I said a minute ago, 3,000 houses sold last year, or just about 3,000 houses sold. And I will tell you this, that in the last 4, 5, 6 weeks, activity has really picked up, to include phone. I mean, the phone calls are increasing big time, and viewings on the internet, and the internet is really a very driving factor in the real estate industry today. The viewings have gone up in the last 4 or 5 weeks about tenfold. So we look forward to a wonderful 2011.
You know, I'm sitting here watching you and just thinking, when my kids were little, Ed, do you know what we did Saturday morning? We would get up and turn you guys on, and that's what we would see, and we'd do that jingle, Kennan and Parker, home something show, woo! And we would call, you know, just like we had the money, and you guys would always be very nice, and we would just envision ourselves living in those homes. What a concept. It is so effective. We do have a phone call. It's Robert from North Columbus. What do you want to ask Ed this afternoon?
Yes, I'm wondering that this is a winter time, and obviously the grass and stuff doesn't look as well as it do at other times. Is there a better time of year when I should be trying to sell my home?
Oh, good question, because the yard can really add so much.
Sure. I think traditionally the springtime has been sort of the peak selling time for homes. Ultimately, with people moving into our market, if they're coming right now, they need a house right now. What I have tended to advise agents to do as well, because photography and the internet are such a big deal, if I take pictures, or if we have an agent that takes pictures of a home during the winter, when the grass turns green, go ahead and redo the pictures, get those back out on the internet, because it does look better.
Okay, thank you so much, Ed. Always bringing lots of good information whenever you come to TV 38. Looking forward to seeing you again. Next, we are going to have Southern Wicker, but later on in the show, too, Vanessa Williams asked my advice about her show. It's true. We'll be right back.